Today's lesson is on factoring tricky trinomials. So remember the last lesson, we talked about simple trinomials. This is an example of a simple trinomial, and this is an example of a tricky trinomial. What you'll notice is the main reason why this is called tricky is because our a term is a number other than 1. We can factor trinomials, tricky trinomials, by way of decomposition. How do we do it? First, we're going to find product of the A and C term. So let's say I have this question, A and C. I have a 3 and a 2. So AC multiplied together is 6. Second, we're going to find factors of AC that adds to B. So in this case, we have B is equal to 5, and factors of 6 that can add to 5 would be 2 plus 3. Then we're going to rewrite the original trinomial, but instead of the middle term, we're going to decompose it and write the form of the factors that add up to B. So when I rewrite it, I have 3x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 2. Next, we're going to take a look at the first two terms together and the second two terms together. We're going to factor out anything that is common to the two sets. Now, the first two numbers, I have x that's common. So I'm going to common factor that out. We have 3x plus 2. And in the second set, there is nothing that's common other than a 1. And we have 3x plus 2 again. Then we're going to factor out our common term. 3x plus 2 is the term that's common. So when I factor out the common term, I'm going to write this out in full so that you see all the steps. I'm rewriting my original equation now, or sorry, the equation from the line above. But mainly to show that these divide out. So these two terms have divided out, and these two terms have divided out. What I have left, 3x plus 2, and inside the second bracket, I have, oops, this was an x plus 1. Let's do another question following our steps. So the product of A and C, so 5 times negative 3, that gives us negative 15. B term is 14, and we know that we need two factors of AC that will add to the B term. So if I did positive 15 and negative 1, that would give us positive 14. Now I'm going to rewrite my equation with a decomposed middle term. 5a squared plus 15a minus a minus 3. Let's factor out anything that's common in the first two terms and in the second two terms. Now, one thing I'm going to add here is that your first number in the bracket must always be a positive. So if we have a negative like this, we can make it a positive if we factor out a negative 1. Now let's do this. So I have 5a times a plus 3. And the second two numbers, there are no, it's not a positive, so I need to factor out a negative 1. Now my two brackets are the same, and I'm going to factor out my common term, a plus 3, and then what's remaining? 5a minus 1. I'm going to do a few more examples here. Factors of AC, that's positive 77. B is a negative 78. Because this is a C term, I know that I need to have two negative factors that can add to negative 78. So two negative factors, negative 77 and a negative 1. Let's rewrite it. 7x squared minus 77x minus 1x plus 11. We're going to factor out our common term, 7x minus 11. And then in our second bracket, we have a negative here. So we need to factor out a negative 1 to make this bracket have a positive first coefficient. Okay, there's an invisible 1 here. And so when we factor our common term, negative 11 times 7x minus 1. Another example, AC is equal to 100. B is equal to 20. And we would use 10 plus 10 to get to the 20. So 4x squared plus 10x plus 10x plus 25. Let's factor out the common term and variable in the first two brackets, 2x, x plus 5, and then the second one, 5 is common to both. Oops, this one had a 2, 2x plus 5. Now factor out our common term, 2x plus 5 and 2x plus 5. Both of these are multiplied together. They're the same thing. So this is a common, this is a perfect square binomial. We can rewrite it as a perfect square. One more slide of examples. Now, if we see a common factor before we factor, it would be easy for us to do that first. Mathematicians are lazy, and so we want to make things as simple as possible. I'm going to factor out a 2 first. So we have 2 times 3x squared minus 14x minus 5. We have the 2 on the outside, and we're going to leave it there, but we're going to now decompose the tricky trinomial inside. 3 and 5, negative 5 together is negative 15. So for us to get negative 14, we would have negative 15x plus 1x. Let's continue to factor out our common term. Okay, so here we have the invisible 1. My brackets would have the 2 on the outside, the common common x minus 5, and then 3x plus 1. This one doesn't have a common term, so we're going to do a times c, it's 144, and b is equal to negative 24. So let's use negative 12 and negative 12 to get to negative 24. 9x squared minus 12x plus 16. Let's factor out our common term, 3x minus 4, and we have 4 that's common to both. I'll be very careful since we factored out a negative 4. We have 16 divided by negative 4, and that gives us negative 4 here. Okay, factor out our common term. And this happens to be a perfect square trinomial and perfect square binomial as well. So this is the end of the first method for factoring tricky trinomials.